Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Ntwaniengomane. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back and welcome to today's video. I hope you guys are well. Thank you for all the questions and all the inputs that I got on my community post. You guys really helped me to sit and record today's video because I feel like I've just been in this mental block where I'm like, oh my god, I feel like I've talked about everything I could talk about in my experience, about careers, about being in the CA profession. So I reached out to you guys and you guys came through with questions and comments and topics that you want me to cover. There were two overarching topics. So there was one, a lot about relationships, navigating romantic relationships as a corporate hand, the dating scene in London, sacrifices I've made in relationships just for my job, especially as a trainee where you're working crazy long hours. There was also another overarching topic about giving accreditation to ACCA to feed into registered auditors. People were asking me about whether the pay rise to manager is worth the workload. People are asking me about my experience at a top 10 firm versus a Big 4, which is where I did my articles, preparing yourself for articles, whether a master's degree, a PhD versus designations in the accounting fraternity. So it's quite a lot of things. And in today's video, I want to deal with topic 2, which is basically the careers part of it, and then in the next video we will talk about the relationships. So thank you guys so much for those comments. Let's get on to today's video. The first question was, hi Ntwanie, just wanted to ask if you could cover tips on preparing yourself for articles. The first one is working on my mind, and I think this is quite a difficult thing to do, especially when you're a student, that you need to prepare your mind to work a full day. You need to think about the fact that when you now transition from being a student to being a professional, you will be expected to sit, work, be productive for 8 hours a day. And that is such a huge adjustment when you're moving from a student lifestyle where you go to class and 12 p.m. you're done. You have the rest of the day. You can go back and take a nap, or you can go buy groceries, or you can go chill out with your friends and stuff like that. Think about that. I don't know, maybe prepare yourself for that. Maybe have days in the week where yes, you go to class until 12 but come back and be productive until 5:30 or 5 p.m. because I think that is quite an adjustment when you come from a lifestyle where you can nap at 3 p.m. Some people actually do fall asleep at work because their bodies are just used to napping at 3 p.m. while when you're in articles you can't do that. You're still under the clock. The second thing I think is doing VAC work. Now, of course, if you are in CTA, it's probably a tad bit too late to do VAC work because you guys probably start your exams in the next 3 weeks or so. But if you're watching this video and you're not in CTA as yet, or you still have time, I would recommend doing VAC work. Like, find one of the Big 4, find one of the top 10, find a financial institution, wherever you decide, go and do VAC work. That serves two purposes. One, it allows you to see what you would actually be doing on a day-to-day basis, and then you can decide if it's actually what you want to do. I've seen people go do VAC work, and then at the end of that 5-day VAC work or month worth of VAC work, they decide I'm not going to do my articles in audit. That's the first point. The second point, it also gives you a sense of the culture in that business or in that company or in that firm, and then you can then decide if you would rather do your articles with firm A, firm B, bank A, bank B. I think another way to prepare yourself is to think about your personal brand and think about what you want to be known for in articles and how you want to brand yourself as a young professional. And I teach about this a lot, to say, guys, when you step into the workplace, you're not just somebody who's coming to work. You are a brand. The way you dress, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you write emails, the way you interact with your colleagues, you are selling your brand. You are selling brand you. So think about what you want to be known for. Think about how you want to be perceived. You know that whole thing about dress the way you want to be addressed? That is actually true. So start thinking about that brand and start thinking about, what exactly do I want to be known for in the workplace? Will I be known as the person who is technically strong? Am I going to be known as the person who delivers on the job? Am I going to be known as the person who's the best coach and mentor to juniors? Am I going to be known as the person who's helpful? Think about those things. The second question was, would you say that the pay rise you got when you became an audit manager was worth the extra workload you got compared to before? And the promotion, especially because you said that you now work late nights and weekends just to stay on top of everything. So this is quite a personal question because it's asking about me, my pay rise, and my workload. I don't think the pay rise is worth the extra workload, the extra effort, the extra coaching, the extra responsibility. And I mean, personally for me, I feel like I work so much more now as a manager than I did as a senior or supervisor. I think there is just now so much more responsibility. There is so much work, and not because we're auditing extra things, but just because there is so many different files that go on at the same time, and I need to keep on top of every file. So over and above reviewing the actual audit work that my teams are doing, I am handling the logistics of the audit. I'm handling the admin of the audit. I'm doing you guys' reviews, performance reviews. I'm recommending improvements to the client on their accounts and all of those things, which are things that as a senior I was shielded from because I was just focusing on my revenue test, for instance, or whatever high risk section that I was allocated. So I think for me personally, the pay rise, which was great, compared to the workload that I now have as an audit manager, it does not match. Like it doesn't align, in my opinion. However, I must say that I do still get to charge overtime. So over and above the salary that I get, I do charge overtime. I am still eligible to charge overtime. So whatever extra hours that I decide to work outside of my work hours, I can get that and claim that as overtime. The third question was, can you please talk about the avenues that exist for people who decide not to continue with the CASA route after getting their accounting degree? So many avenues exist. So if you decide you studied this accounting degree and let's say maybe you don't qualify for CCA, or outright you just don't want to do CCA anymore, there's so many avenues that exist, guys. You can go into consulting. You can still be an accountant, financial managers. You can still go the finance route and work in a finance division of a firm, a bank, anywhere else in any industry that you want. Like, I feel like people glorify the CASA designation. Yes, it's a great designation. Yes, it is preferred by a lot of, especially international companies that have different reporting frameworks, because CASA are specialists in reporting framework, in the IFRS reporting framework. So I think we glorify it quite a lot, but just because you did not get to the CASA designation doesn't mean your career is over. It doesn't mean that there is nothing else you can do with your accounting degree. There are people who are running their own accounting firms with accounting degree. Remember, an accounting degree, it even teaches you the advanced accounting terms, things like the tax, things like financial management. you are a well-rounded and well-packaged accountant. There are people who have accounting degrees and run their own accounting firms. They do bookkeeping for other businesses. They do financial statement preparations. They do cloud computing. They do a lot of things, guys. There is so much opportunity outside of the CASA. If you're sitting there and you're beating yourself up because you couldn't continue with the CSA thing, or you're just outright not interested in it, it's okay. Like, you can still use your accounting degree to go and be great, be financial managers, be risk consultants, be consultants actually as well. You can still use your accounting degree to do that. I know of somebody when I was still in uni. I went to uni with somebody who did the accounting degree that I was doing, and then I went on to do articles, and CTA, and the person then decided that they were not going to do the CTA. They were actually going to venture into consulting, and they're successful. They are consultant, BCG, big consulting firms. Like, they are there working as consultants. And likewise, I have friends who I did the whole thing with, did CTA with. Actually remember very vividly, this girl, she did CTA with us. We passed CTA, and she decided, I'm not going to do articles, and she took her degree and she did something else, and she's successful in her field. I feel like people need to release themselves into the pressure of going into the CASA thing, especially if you know it's not for you, guys. There's still so many opportunities out there. You can still do ACCA if you want, which does not require you to go through CTA and all of those things. You can still be in finance. You can still do investment banking. You don't need to be a CA to be an investment banker. There are engineers who are investment bankers. So if you play your cards right and you do what you need to do, you can build a successful career with just an accounting degree. Can you please cover a topic on whether it's advisable for a trainee to purchase a house while still doing their articles? This is very subjective. In my opinion, I would say wait. Right? I would say wait, but obviously this is based on your circumstances. It's based on your finances. So if you have the money and if you feel like you're at the right point in your life where you want to commit to a bond, remember, guys, buying a house is more than just the bond repayments. Buying a house is a deposit. As a trainee, do you have a deposit to pay down on that house? Yes, maybe you might say, I'll get 100% bond, I don't need a deposit, but you are a high risk. Have you built your credit score? Have you paid down debt before? Do you have the deposit to pay for this house? Do you have extra money for the maintenance of this house? Do you have money for the lawyer's fees? Do you have money for registration, your bond registration costs? Do you have money to pay rates and taxes to the municipality? So it's more than just paying the bond. And I know, like, when you get, also another thing is trainee salaries are not that great in South Africa. So I don't know what value of house you are buying, but if your personal circumstances and financial health are at a good point for you to buy, do buy if that's what you want to do. Personally, in my experience, I'm glad I didn't, and I still would recommend that you wait to build your credit score, to build a deposit. Also, interest rates are very high right now, so you need to assess. If interest rates go up, I don't know, another 50 basis points or another 75 basis points, will you still be able to afford that house without causing a financial strain on you and your family, or whoever is involved in your life at this point? So the next point is the ACCA has been given a license by IRBA. Given your UK experience, would you recommend ACCA to South African accounting students now? So the backstory on this ACCA and IRBA business is that earlier this year, IRBA decided to give ACCA accreditation to feed auditors to IRBA to register as auditors. So basically what this means is, historically, IRBA has always gotten people to register as registered auditors coming from SAICA. So before you could be a registered auditor, you needed to have been a member of SAICA, so i.e. a CASA, for you to register with IRBA. However, now Araba is saying, yes, we have the stream, the feeding stream from Acca, but now we're opening a feeding stream from ACCA as well. So people who have the ACCA designation can now also register with Araba to do the 18 months course and become registered auditors, right? So my take on this, I think this is positive for the audit industry. I think it's very positive because I think Araba was in a position where they were not getting enough people. I think just generally they are in a position where there is not enough people that are staying within the audit space to register as registered auditors with Araba, which is what Acca was feeding. So now bringing in this accreditation with ACCA also allows people who have the ACCA designation to now register with Araba as registered auditors. And what this means basically on the ground is that ACCA, that it means that people will be allowed to do ACCA, or people who do the ACCA designation will now be allowed to register with Araba and don't have to be CASAs first, right? So I feel like this is positive for the audit industry. I mean, it allows people a different avenue to get to the same point, which is being a registered auditor. What this means though is that ACCA might have their own training facility where they train auditors, because for you to register as an auditor, you need to have built up a portfolio of audit evidence, and you need to do the 18-month course that Araba has. So I don't know if audit firms will now open up their training programs to include ACCA students as well, or ACCA as the designation will just feed directly into Araba. But in terms of the question, would you recommend ACCA to South African students? I mean, if that is what you want to do, yes, go out and do it. If your end goal is to register as an auditor but you do not want to be a CA, 100% go through the ACCA route. You can still do that. But at the end of the day, whether you do ACCA or whether you do CASA is highly dependent on where you want to take your career and which of these designations will take you there faster and which of these designations will be better in that journey. So there is no designation that is better than the other. No, there's a designation that will take you to where you want to go quicker and much more efficiently than the other. So is it a good thing for the accreditation? Yes. Do I support it? Yes. I 100% I am behind it. Anybody who has ACCA and wants to register as an auditor, 100% do it. What I'm not for is people comparing ACCA and CASA because it's similar, it's in the same industry, but it affords you two different things, and there's no one that's better than the other. It just depends on what you want to use each of these for. What is the importance of a master's in accounting or a PhD versus the accounting designation? The following question with this one also says, does the salary increase when you have more accounting designations? Let me take it from this angle, right? So there are people who do masters and PhD, and that is well and great. But like I said in my previous point, guys, don't blindly study things. Don't blindly register for a master's or register for a PhD, especially in a field like accounting, because what counts and what feeds into the salary and the money that you make is the experience, the expertise, and the skill that you bring. Just because you have a master's doesn't mean you should get paid more. And just because you have a PhD doesn't mean you should get paid more than the person who has a master's. PhD, I feel, is great if you want to stick into the academia side of things. Even a master's to a certain level is great if you want to stick to academia. However, a master's is also helpful if you're trying to break into a certain space. For instance, I'm in audit. If I did a master's in finance right now, it might help me break into the financial sector, right? But will I get paid with my master's in finance? Will I get paid more than the person who has been working in finance for the past 5 years? No. Why? Because they are more experienced, they are more skilled, and they can deliver much more efficiently than I can with my master's degree. So the level of pay in the market is not based on the amount of designations and the amount of qualifications you have. It is based on the value that you bring. If you have all of these designations and you think you are going to be paid more than somebody who doesn't but has the experience, you are wrong. Because when firms consider candidates, they look for the person who's going to help them get to their goal and their bottom line. They're not looking for designations. They're not looking for degrees. They're not looking at some point as a professional. Your marks in uni, your cum laudes, your degrees, your whatever, fall away. And it becomes about your experience. It becomes about your expertise. It becomes about your skill. So should you do a master's and a PhD or a CSA or a CFA or whatever, yes, do it, because it also gives you credibility. But when it comes to pay, focus on the skill, get the expertise, get the experience. That is what is going to increase your pay in corporate. I'm going to take the last question because it's a lot. The last question is the difference between working at a Big 4 and a top 10 firm. Guys, there has been such a huge difference. Firstly, when I worked at a Big 4 firm, I was obviously doing articles, so my experience is solely from an articleship perspective. I have not been a CASA at a Big 4 firm. I have not been an order manager there, right? I've been that at a top 10 firm. But these are some of the differences. One, the pay difference. Big 4 firms pay more than top 10 firms. That's for sure. They have bigger clients. They have bigger resources. They have a big income revenue that's coming in. They have multi departments within the firm that bring in different types of revenues. And so their compensation or remuneration and benefits will be much better than in a top 10. That's point number one. Point number two, like I said, they have so much more resources. In a Big 4 firm, we were able to call upon the IT team when we're testing the entity or the client's processes. We were able to go to the IT department and say, hey guys, please come and test these things, because as auditors, we're just not equipped enough to test operating systems, right? And they would come and do that. At a top 10 firm, that is not done for every engagement. That is done for specific engagements, and not all engagement has the luxury of calling on the IT department to come and do certain work, right? And while that may seem as a disadvantage to a certain degree, especially when you're working towards a deadline, it becomes an advantage, because now as an auditor, I need to sit and I need to think about how to test this IT environment that the client has. And that gives me a little bit more insight. It gives me a little bit more skill as well. While in the Big 4, it's done by an external team and I'm not involved. I just get the results. So that's difference number two. I think difference number three is perception, market perception. When you come from a Big 4, you are perceived as more experienced, because the Big 4 has bigger clients, variety of clients, listed clients, so exposure is high there. So you're perceived as more experienced, you're perceived as more valuable. It looks good on your CV. That's why you see job posts say prefer somebody from a Big 4 firm, because they are perceived to have more experience, and they are perceived to have a lot of variety of experience, compared to a top 10 firm where, yes, we do still have listed clients, yes, we do still have all of that variety, but it is at a much smaller scale than it is at a Big 4. So the market perception between somebody coming from a Big 4 and somebody coming from a top 10 is different. I think the other difference is the workload. I don't know, but for me, I thought before I came into the top 10 basically before I came into the audit industry, I think in my mind it made sense that the top 10 firms would have a lot more workload than the Big 4, but it's actually the other way around now that I think about it. The Big 4 has big clients and big files and everything, so there's a lot more to do there, and there's a lot of moving parts, while in a top 10 firm they have private clients mostly, and so the deadlines, they are not as bad as they are in the Big 4, and the workload tends to be smaller. Or at least for me, in my personal experience, they tend to be a lot less. So you have more work-life balance in like top 10 firms. You know, mental and wellness is such a big thing there. It's still such a big thing in the Big 4, but I feel like the Big 4 like to do the whole webinars things and stuff, while in the top 10 firms they actually give you like time off, because they can afford to give you time off because it's not as busy. Career progression, yes, career progression I think is better at a Big 4 than it is at a top 10 firm, because the Big 4s have these different divisions. So they have audit, they have advisory, they have corporate finance, they have tax, they have, you know, training, learning and development. They still do have all of these things in the top 10 firms, but in the Big 4 it's so much easier, I feel, to move around in these divisions than it is in the top 10, because normally in the top 10 you're understaffed in audit, and so they don't want to see you go into advisory and all of those other divisions. In my experience, that's what I found. I feel like in my articles, when I was at a Big 4, it was acceptable. It was not, you know, like people wouldn't stop you if you wanted to get a feel of the different divisions and work in the different divisions. But I feel like in the top 10 firms, it's like, it's looked at as if, oh my gosh, you are leaving audit, like how could you do that? But I'm like, I'm still in the business, you know, I'm still in the same. So I feel like career progression in that way is a lot better at the Big 4, because you have more opportunity and it's easier to move around, while in the top 10 firms, yes, it's there, but in my experience it has been a bit more difficult to rotate within the different divisions. So yeah, that is today's video. Wow, it is 30 minutes. I've been talking for the past 30 minutes, but I hope you guys found this useful. Let me know if you have any more questions and we'll talk about it in the comments. Next week or the following video, we will talk about relationships and dive deep into the dating scene in London and what my experience has been there, and some of the things that I've realized when it comes to dating, especially as a corporate girl who's trying to build a career in a foreign country. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like, to comment, to subscribe, and share this with your friends.